Hello, beautiful ladies in this gorgeous group. I'm Fiona Clark, the Zenergiser, and first of all, I have to say a massive, massive thank you to Asher for empowering everybody on this summit with all these amazing speakers. My goodness, I think we've all spent the whole weekend catching up on videos, if not on live ones. So thank you, Nyasha, for allowing me to join you on this summit. And I have to say, I know we're coming to the end and there's a couple of people left. I'm not quite the last one, I know that. But, gosh, what an amazing load of stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do, how I've got to where I am, and I'm going to talk to you about moving meditation. And I'm also going to give you something. If you're interested, I've got an offer for you at the end of this. So I started my journey actually as a kinesiologist back in 1991. I trained as a kinesiologist. I've also been a theta healer. I have been a reflexologist. And what else have I done? An EFT practitioner, a flower essence practitioner, and also Sakem Reiki practitioner. So basically, and a midlife empowerment coach, I've done the works. And now what I've done is I've put all of these things, all of these beautiful skills that I've collated over the last 25 plus years, and I've brought them together under just one umbrella. And that's why I call myself the Zenergiser. How lovely to see you, Selena. Thank you for joining me. And I have my Zenergy chest of skills and techniques, which I use myself, and what I'm really passionate about. And since the first days of me training in 91 as a kinesiologist, all I've really wanted to do was to empower other people to be their own healers. I want to inspire others to take responsibility to heal themselves, because at the end of the day, we are our own healers, aren't we? This is what we can do, and we are. It's just that so often we have no idea what points to use or where to put our hands or what we can do to heal ourselves. Now, my journey really started when I was working full-time. I used to work for British Airways, so I was lucky enough. I travelled around the world. I saw most amazing places. I explored the world. I had so much fun. I earned a good salary, but there was still something missing inside of me. I knew there was something more. And so after doing that for a few years, I started to investigate. And actually, the reason I got into kinesiology was because I had a car accident, as sometimes we do. And I was driving to work at this time on the M25, which was at that stage quite new. So we are going back a few years. Show my age here. Anyway, I suffered whiplash from this accident, and actually it was a bit of a pile-up with 5 cars, and I was number 4. So I had whiplash going into the car in front of me, and then I could see this BMW coming into the back of me at full speed. So that really whacked my neck, and that probably was the one that gave me the worst injury. But that didn't end there. I was in my ex-husband's company car about 3 months later, stationary at the lights, and somebody went into the back of me then. So I really did have huge problems with my neck. I had pain all down my shoulder. I couldn't move my arm. I couldn't carry anything heavy. And this went on for a long time. And of course, as you do, you go through the insurance and you go and see all these people and they tell you this and that. And they said to me, you know, these Harley Street doctors told me that I would have problems for the rest of my life, blah, 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 blah. I had manipulation under anesthetic. I had all these different things. And then a very good friend of mine that I used to work with said to me, I've started this new course, and she said, I want to practice. Would you be willing to be my sort of body to practice on? And I was like, well, yes, of course. I'll always explore something new. So from that, I was so fascinated that I ended up going to her instructor, and she basically fixed my neck. She fixed my neck through kinesiology. And I was so flabbergasted and so intrigued and fascinated that that was when I decided that I needed to know more about this and how I could get involved. Now, of course, meanwhile, I'm still going back to the doctors 4 years on, and they're still telling me I'm going to have problems the rest of my life and blah, 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 which, of course, I couldn't then say, well, actually, my neck's fine because I wanted to get the insurance. But what I did... Hello, lovely, Nyasha. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, lovely to see you. So that was the start of my journey into this world of magical things called energy and meridians and muscle testing and things that I didn't even know existed or were even possible. And I have to say, back in the early 90s, so remember I did this in 91. Hi, nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining me. Energy, I mean, let's face it, we are just energy. Anything that's living is energy. But we never spoke about it because you were really woo-woo or you were really weird, you know, you sort of had to have flowing skirts on all sorts of different things and live down in Glastonbury or whatever. And I wasn't like that. So I really was an energy closet case. I never spoke about it much at all, unless I was with the people that I felt really safe with and who I was training with and we all were doing it together. So kinesiology was my first adventure into discovering the world of our bodies and energy and how we can heal ourselves and do muscle testing and all sorts of different things. Flower essences, I started using them at that time as well. And that took me just on this journey, which just opened up and I kept coming across more things. So I kept thinking, oh my God, I've got to know more about this. And then a friend of mine said, you know, her father was dying of cancer and she wanted to do reflexology and she wanted me to do it with her. And I was like, oh, I don't really want to touch people's feet. It's a bit yucky. So I went and did it. Anyway, I was so fascinated. And that, again, I did for years. And I was totally fascinated. Everything is on your feet. Your life, history, emotionally, physically, spiritually, is all on your feet. And your hands, actually. It's just your hands are not as sensitive because obviously we're using them all the time. And I had incredible results. I did it with colour crystals, with a torch. I did it with sound. I did it... I did VRT, which was working vertical reflex therapy. On the top of the foot, I had incredible results with reflexology, absolutely amazing results. And then, of course, my journey just continued. I got into flower essences, I got into doing Reiki, I got into crystals, and it just continued. And so all these things that I was gathering in my Zenergy chest at the time with things that I used to use for myself, and then I'd pick out a bit from here and I'd pick out a bit from there, and then I'd see what worked with the clients and everything else. Then I moved to Asia. So, start business again. And I did in Asia. Went to Hong Kong. My ex-husband wasn't happy here. So I gave up my job and family and the dog and everything else. And we moved with two very young boys, of 3 and 5 at the time. And we moved to Hong Kong. Which for me, I mean, I'd been there many, many times, but living there was a very different thing. And it took me into another avenue. So I did acupressure there and I did some crystal healing courses there. And I was just in, you know, my eyes were like, oh my God, because in Hong Kong, every other shop you see is a reflexology shop or it's a Chinese herbal shop. They put their health first. Going to have reflexology is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is a part of your day or your week. You just do it like you'll have lunch. Whereas in the UK, or in our Western world, it's a luxury. It's at the end of the list. Yeah, well, maybe we'll do 1 or 2 and see whatever. So I started working there in a doctor's surgery where I was doing kinesiology and reflexology. And then my husband still wasn't happy, ex-husband. And so we ended up moving to the Philippines. And then he left me after being there for 4 months. He left me. He still continued to live there for a little bit longer. I continued to live there with the 2 boys for another 7 years, would you believe? And this was the time that I can truly say my personal development from a inner self point of view really started to take off, because going through a divorce over there was extremely difficult, and he needed more than reflexology. I used to give him reflexology, actually, Nisha. He needed more than that, I'm afraid. He needed a lot more than that. But it took me on a new journey. It took me on another journey. And that journey, actually, because I had all these questions in my head saying, what is wrong with me? I'm obviously not good enough. You know, going into the drama. And it brought up all these different beliefs of my childhood, which was completely bloody dysfunctional. And one of the things, the biggest belief with me was always, I'm not good enough. And that continued. So I went to Hong Kong and I trained in EFT, so tapping. Didn't mention this at the beginning, I think. And that changed my life completely, because what it did was it was able to get to the core issue, the core roots of why I was feeling so shitty. There's no good asking the why, because why just goes round in circles. It's like, what can I do about it? How can I change this? What steps do I need to take a different route, to be a different person, to feel different within myself? And so the EFT, the tapping, the emotional freedom technique, the fast EFT, whatever you want to, or you know it as yourself, literally changed my life. And I had workshops. I taught children as young as 6 how to use this. I've taught kids over here in schools how to use it. And I incorporate it. I actually use the fast EFT method now. I don't use the traditional because I found it's too long. And I also found, if you know anything about it, people weren't using it because they didn't know what to say. And with the faster EFT method, we go into very much more about how do you feel? Because your feelings, you know how you feel, if it's good or bad, but you can't necessarily put those feelings into words. But if we tap and let go of the feelings, then things just shift. So my journey continued and I became stronger, and kind of very long story short, this is when my moving meditation came in, because I used to cycle. And this was the time when I got away from all these thoughts. Yes, you do. My bike was almost, when I get on my bike, I've been on this morning, done my 25 miles, it's almost like the sack of worries just disappears. It just gets blown away. And when we have that space in our head, when we have, I call this the committee, when it's having a conference and it's telling us all the things that we can't do, that we should do, that we must do, all these conversation, I call it the committee, just having a conference. And when we listen to that, we are stuck in that low vibe. We're stuck in those low vibe energy. And we need to change that. So tapping is an amazing way to do that. It let goes, it changes that. But my moving meditation, why am I doing? Sorry, I need to plug in. Sorry, I am plugged in, but it wasn't switched on, so it's not much good if it's not going to charge us. So my moving meditation is a point of when I'm actually in the zone and my head empties, and this is when I get most of my creative thoughts, when I get all my inspiration. It all comes in at that time, when I'm actually either on my bike, trundling along, or it could be when I'm walking as well. So this is why I call it my moving meditation. And it's one of my non-negotiables, absolute non-negotiables. So the journey continued, and I really found that what I was doing was I had all these skills and I was putting them together in very different ways. And this is where I've come up with the Zenergy, because we all know about having energy and we look at this in different ways. How often do you think when you think of energy, it's just like that go, 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 go. It's that doing part. But we equally need to have that balance in being. And this is what Zenergy is all about. It's literally the balance of doing and being. Because if we're doing all the time, we burn out. We literally will burn out. And as I say, if you are sick, if you are stressed, if you are in pain, you are in some form or another out of balance. Okay, you're not in your Zenergy. So what we're trying to do all the time, or not trying, we are doing all the time, is to keep ourselves in this place of flow. And when I talk about flow and being in balance, think about it as our energy is flowing up and down our body all the time through the meridians. Yeah, the meridians are our energy pathways that come up and down our body. There's 14 main meridians. They are connected to the different organs. And there's so much more. They're connected to different emotions that are connected to them. And when we're tapping on the points, if you know about tapping, we are literally tapping the beginnings or the ends of the meridians. So, for example, this point at the beginning is bladder meridian. Now, bladder meridian is all to do with feeling fearful, feeling anxious, feeling panicky. So by tapping these points, instead of putting acupuncture needles in, we are tapping them to bring them back into a flow, into balance. So I also give you the analogy of when we're in flow, it's like we're flowing down that beautiful stream. We're in the boat and we're just paddling and we're just going around the rocks and the boulders and we are just blissfully happy, flowing. We smile. We've got, you know, it smells nice. It feels good. The water's just gorgeous. We might be going over some big boulders, which might be a little bit more challenging, but we're flowing with it because we're going with the tide or with the current. Now, when we're in pain, when we're sick, and when we are stressed, it's almost like we've turned that boat round and we are paddling up the friggin' river. And we've got our head down because it's such hard work and we are paddling against the flow. And it's hard. We don't know where we're going because we can't see, because we've got our head down. And so this is what happens. So we need to work out, what do we need to do to turn that boat round, to get us down that river, to flow with the current. And that's when our energy is in our Zenergy place. And this is what I do when I work with my clients, is the number one for me is inspiring every single person that I see, no matter what age, because actually I love working with kids and I do work with a lot of kids and teens, is to be their own healers. So I give them these skills and techniques that I have accumulated since I started in 91. So it may be a tapping point, it may be a tapping sequence, it may be acupressure points, it may be a reflexology point, it may be some brain gym energy exercises, it may be meditations. There are so many, it may be flower essences, because I use and I call those my magic essences. I have about 350 of those. And they act as catalysts for emotional change because they work on our auric field. So they're working on our emotions. Because when we're up in the committee, we're more often than not, you stop the housework. Oh, I love it, Teresa. Anything to stop housework. You've reminded me, I haven't done mine. God. So flower essences, I call them my magic essences, and I've brought my kids up on them, literally. If they had coughs and colds, you know, like kids do, then I mix them up, a combination, and I use a pendulum. I don't come from my conscious mind because I tune into that person's energy to see what their subconscious wants. Because if I think about it on my conscious level, they don't even know what they want. So every essence I make up is uniquely for that person. I have the stock bottles of about 350 different ones, and then I choose each one by tuning in with the pendulum as to what they need, and they're always spot on. So energy work for me has been part of my closet, but it's not anymore. And what I find absolutely beautiful is even just this year, and I'd love to know whether you feel this, that everybody is talking about energy. And I'm just like, huh? I was doing this in the 90s. I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't talking about it because it was just like, what do you, and plus we didn't have phones and stuff to be doing live videos on and stuff. But I didn't necessarily, I was quite a closet case, okay, doing it. So this is what is important to me, because every single one of us is our own healer. We are our own healers. It is the new thing, isn't it? New thing. No. You know, when you look in the Asian and the East, it's not new. Those kids, they use their herbs. They use, you know, it's like flower essences are not new. We've been using herbal remedies for centuries. We've been using, you know, energy points for centuries. Reflexology is going back to Egyptian times. Everything is on your feet and hands. It's fascinating. I used to say I had a foot fetish. You know, if I was going to yoga, I'd be like checking everyone's feet out. I was like, yeah, I know what's wrong with you. I can see it on your feet. And then you can change, because they do change with consistency. So energy is the most important thing in our lives to be aware of, to have the awareness of where are we, and what creates those blocks as if we are paddling upstream is what goes on up here. in the committee take charge of our thoughts. And when we have those thoughts that are low vibe thoughts that have got anything to do with, let's just say, we either are running from the fear state or from the love state. So we've got two main emotions, two main things going on in life, fear or love. And most of the time we are on the fear end. So we've got anger, shame, disappointment, frustration, resentment, all these different things, lack of self-worth, they all come down that spectrum towards the fear. Now, what's interesting is when we sort of reach the middle, and I always say that the magic is waiting for you across the wall of fear. You just got to get across it. And to get across that wall of fear, you need the courage. But once you hit and you pick yourself up and you say, right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take one step at a time to change the way I'm feeling right now because it ain't working for me anymore. The courage will take you into that upper realm that is going to take you into the love section. So the happiness, the confidence, the feelings of peace, of compassion, of enlightenment, which is right up here. But this is where we need to aim for. But it's the thoughts that create the energy to be out of sync, so that we're not in our Zenergy, we are not flowing down that river, we are paddling upstream. So what is it? And you can ask yourselves every day, where am I on that scale? So if you think about 1 being love and 10 being fear, where are you? And 5 being courage to come back. You can do it the other way around if you want. 10 being love, 1 being fear, whatever. But think about it. Where am I coming from today? Am I coming from a place of fear or lack? Or I'm coming from a place of love, from intuition, from inner peace, of confidence, of everything else that we want in our lives? Because that's who we are. That is exactly who we are. The fear end are all the different things that we have learned from before we were 7 years old. When we are in theta state, which is a state that you feel just before you go off into sleep. So you're like a sponge, and we absorb the beliefs, the values, the thoughts from our parents, our teachers, our churches, our society. And we take those thoughts and those beliefs on as ours, and we practice them until they're so frigging perfect. Hi, lovely. Hello, Michaela. That we believe we're not good enough. We believe we're not lovable. I mean, I was brought up, I had a completely dysfunctional, I had a very good background upbringing in many ways, but completely frigging dysfunctional. I had my mum and dad, I don't even remember them married. Moving meditation, brilliant. And then my dad, it sounds dreadful, but my dad got married 3 times actually, and my second stepmother was a witch, and I literally was Cinderella. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I could tell you stories that would make your hair curl. And she would always say to me, and I was with her from probably the ages of 10 to 17, so that crucial stage of development, and I was a rebel. And she would always say to me, you'll never make anything of yourself. You're this, you're that. So I had this thing where I was not good enough. And that was my belief. And then, of course, my ex-husband left me with the words, you don't do it for me anymore. Poof. End of. No other explanation. 22 years together. 2 boys at 7 and 9. You don't do it for me anymore. That's it. I'm leaving. And I was in the Philippines. Been there 4 months. Didn't know anybody. Didn't have a credit card. Didn't have a bank account. Didn't have my phone in my name. I had nothing. So it all came back again. I'm not good enough. I'm obviously not good enough. So can you see where these beliefs are indoctrinated into us from a younger age? And of course that must have come down from all the dysfunctionalness that I had previous to wicked stepmother. But it all comes back. And if we do not clear those beliefs from the committee, they just come round in another pair of shoes. So this is where the tapping and also theta healing comes in to its magic, because we get to the root of the problem. We get to that root time, if you like, in the past that created that problem, that belief that you've taken on as yours. And it's bullshit. Excuse my language. It's total bullshit. We are beautiful, beautiful energy beings. And we've just got ourselves layered with masks, with shadows of whatever we've picked up along the way. And that's not us. Underneath that is that beautiful beaming light that is desperate to beam and show itself and be its true, most powerful self, and to give its light off to everyone else around us. Because when we do that, we change the people around us without even them doing anything. We change the energy. And then we become that beacon, that lighthouse, if you think, when you think of a ship as looking for shore, is it safe? That beacon of light is us, in our power, standing in our power. And so, I know I'm getting close to my half an hour, so I need to keep an eye on that. So, we are all responsible for our own being. And what I share with anyone and everybody who works with me, and even in my group, if you're interested, come into the Zenergy zone, where I share this. And sometimes we need the help, we need the support. And I give that to you in the skills and techniques that you can use for yourself. So you know when you're at night, and by God have I been there a million times, when you can't sleep because committee's having a conference again, you know what to do. You know how to tap to get rid of those thoughts. You know what essences you may need to help you clear that mind. You know how to get out of the committee and get back into your heart. Whether you need to go on a moving meditation, whether you need to do a meditation, whether you need to do some energy techniques that will just bring your body and mind back to this present moment. Because half the time we're either thinking about what might happen, which creates the anxiety, or we're thinking about what has happened, which creates the depression. Bring yourself back here, into this present moment. And the easiest way to do that actually is with your breath. Just breathe, come back here. So that is who I am. I am the Zenergiser. I am passionate about inspiring others to re-energize or revitalize their energy so that they revitalize their life, and not just their life, the lives around them. And I always ask everyone to pay it forward. Whatever I teach you, share with somebody else. Move it forward. Because if everybody in this, we all know as women, and even as men, I love working with men too, if we all work together to bring more love, so thinking about that 1 to 10, if we were all more sort of from the 5 to the 10, just think what difference that would make in our world, in our environment. It would be massive, massive. So ask yourselves every day, where am I on this scale? Am I in the fear, or I'm in love? Do I need some courage today to step over that wall of fear to come up into the love, the confidence, the inner peace? Because when you're in a state of inner peace, the world is your oyster. And you just attract a different energy from different people around you. So that is me. If you have any questions or comments, then please let me know. And if you're interested, what I'm more than happy to do is to offer you a Stress to Calm tapping audio, which you can use if you feel you're in a stressy moment anytime. And let's face it, we all have them. I tap when I'm walking the dog. I tap a lot. I still tap a lot, and I still use my essences a lot. And I did my moving meditation. I did my 25-mile cycle, and I also walk the dog. Little rocks. So I've done huge, but that's me. I have to get out and be in nature. So that's another thing. But if you're interested in that, I'll put the link in, and please let me know how you feel. It's called Stress to Calm. It's a 15-minute guided technique of how you can go from feeling really stressed, using the tapping. You're just following my guidance, and you will bring yourself back into a place of peace and calm. And you can use that whenever you want. And I ask you please to share it, pass it forward. So I think I've hit my 30 minutes. That's amazing. I'm on time. So thank you. 25 miles. I know I'm a bit of a nutcase actually, but you know what? There was a ride 100. Now, Michaela, is your husband a cyclist? The Ride 100 was going around today. All the roads are closed off around Surrey. I went the other way because I was like, oh, but because there's hundreds of them. And I really would like to have done that one, but it's balloted and it's so oversubscribed. But anyway, I did 25 miles, which is it was a quarter today. It was just a quarter. But that's my bliss. I know it sounds bonkers, but I love it. So thank you. And Nyasha, thank you for the pleasure of coming into your group, getting to know you all, and listening to all these stories. It's just been absolutely beautiful. And I know we've got a couple more coming after me to speak, and I should be listening to those. If not live, it will be on the replay. I'll be catching up, and I look forward to connecting with you all again as well. So thank you for listening. If you're on the replay, I really appreciate it. And yeah, onwards and upwards, girls. That's all we can say. Keep that energy high. Get your Zenergy, and life can be amazing whenever you want. It's just making that choice, okay? So I'll speak to you all soon. Bye for now.